Their main point is that some traits are expressed through bloodline, like what happened with him and his son. It had a strong hook when he started saying he will never forget the U.S. government for what they did in Huntsville, which made the reader wonder what happened in Huntsville, and he also mentioned the butterfly effect, which attracted the reader towards it. The author had interesting vocabs when he uses sentences like Uncle Sam in the top hat pointing a sunway finger at you kind of way. He was also mixing shows and tells, like in this paragraph he was telling about Junior without specifying why he has this trait, so here he was just telling. But in this paragraph he went into details and he was showing the reader what exactly happened that day. The author was very skilled with using metaphors and combining them with similes, like my mother wallet was very much single, which was a metaphor. And he supported it with similes like a wildflower spring from the ground, like mud used spring brush. The author was using the active voice throughout the whole article, which made the reader more engaged with the story. However, he was using a lot of killer bees, which took away from his imagery. He was using the first pronoun, the first person point of view to express his story because this happened to him, and he was able to convey more details here, which also engaged the reader by expressing him in the reading by saying you. However, this came with drawback about the reality of the story. In this sentence where he was expressing his dad with a very aggressive tone that made us take an idea about him, but then he retreated his words and said, he was mine, although he's dad, you can't judge him. That makes us point a great point that this story is subjective from his point of view, that has his own reflections, that this is how he achieved the second R, which is reflecting over his work by his older self reflecting over his younger self. His story also rings true in this sentence when he went to Metropolitan City, but he couldn't live there because he was young and he didn't have enough money, which adds to the reality of the story. The ending comes when we did not expect it, and it relates back to the title of Bloodline when he sees his son tantrums as reflections of his uncle and great-great-grandfather instead of bad things, which add intimacy and complexity to the story and storytelling itself. However, the author made a mistake here by including a character idea, which you should never do in a creative nonfiction because you don't know their ideas. I went through the story by relating it to my own story that my parents got divorced when I was 8 and I didn't have any contact with my dad. It affected me, but then when he revoked back his words, I was baffled. Thus, I went through the text with the confirmation bias, trying to prove that his dad is bad, which happened later. When his dad let his brother go to jail, that this moment where I know his dad was very, very bad towards him. I tried to mitigate my own confirmation bias by close reading of the article and highlighting and focusing on picking the medium and understanding the article. I also tried to separate my emotions from the work and read it 2 times, which happened, and turned out his dad wasn't bad and he actually had a good reflection of his dad in some moments. He was just not responsible enough to deal with him, but he loved him at the end of the day. A person who's going through the story without understanding the black culture and the Black Lives Movement would have a lot of problems. Like in this sentence, they are using the black accent and the black wording to convey feelings which would seem aggressive to other people, but here they might be as more brotherly love. The word prison was mentioned 11 times in this article, and he expressed that if he didn't succeed in his life, he would go to prison, and then he mentioned that Huntsville has a lot of people who went to prison. It's also important to understand the demographics of Huntsville, which is 50% white and 30% black people, which reflects here in his writing when he was choosing a table to sit with when he transferred to a new school. It was important to understand his connotation snowed in Austin because Austin has almost 0-inch snow, and the average in the US is around 28 inches of snow.